Before we begin, if this story touches something quiet inside you, take a second to like the video or subscribe. Not for me, but so this message can find someone else who is still sitting in silence, wondering why their life hasn't moved yet. Have you ever noticed how tired you feel, even when you haven't done much? Not physical tired, a deeper kind, the kind that comes from starting over too many times, from telling people your plans with a hopeful smile and later avoiding their eyes. Have you ever laid in bed at night staring at the ceiling thinking about the person you could have been by now? Not angry, just quiet, a little heavy. You scroll through your phone. You see people your age building things, creating, moving forward, and you tell yourself they're not better than me, but something still hurts. You know you have ideas. You know you have potential. You've felt it your whole life. So why does nothing seem to stay finished? Why do beginnings feel exciting, but the middle always feels unbearable? Why does motivation show up loudly, but disappear silently? And why does it feel like the more you talk about your dreams, the further away they get? Sit with that question for a moment. Not to judge yourself, just to notice, because this story begins there, in that quiet space between who you are and who you keep promising yourself you'll become. There was a man named Eli. Not special, not broken, just human. Eli lived a normal life, small apartment, regular job, same routine every day, but inside him lived something loud, ideas, dreams, plans that felt important. Some nights he stayed up late imagining a different future, a life where his days meant more, where his work mattered, where people looked at him differently. He didn't want fame, he wanted respect. Mostly from himself, Eli was the kind of person who got excited easily. A new idea could light him up for days. He would write plans in notebooks, watch videos, read articles. Tell himself this is it, this time will be different, and for a while it always felt true. Eli was very good at starting. He would wake up early for a week, buy the right tools, set goals. Talk about his plan. He told friends, family, sometimes even strangers, not to brag, just because it felt good to say it out loud. Every nod of approval gave him energy. Every "that's a great idea" felt like progress, but slowly something strange happened. The excitement faded, the work became boring, the results didn't come fast. He missed one day, then two. He told himself it was okay, life happens. Soon the notebook stayed closed, the tools collected dust, and the dream quietly moved to the shelf with all the others. After a while, starting felt harder, not because he didn't believe in the idea, but because he didn't trust himself anymore. Each unfinished goal left a small crack inside him. He laughed it off. Joked about being lazy, but alone he felt smaller than before. One evening, Eli sat alone in his apartment. No music, no phone, just silence. He looked around and realized nothing in the room reflected who he thought he was. No proof, no evidence, just time that had passed. He didn't feel dramatic sadness. No tears, just a quiet shame. The kind that whispers, you had time, you had chances. He thought about all the things he told people he would do, and all the things he didn't. That night, for the first time, he didn't make a new plan. He just felt tired. A few days later, Eli visited his uncle, an old man, simple life, few words. They sat outside as the sun went down. Eli didn't say much, but his uncle noticed. After a long silence, the old man spoke. "Why do you look like someone who's been running but hasn't gone anywhere?" Eli smiled, then looked down. "I start things," he said quietly. "I just don't finish." The old man nodded, as if he'd heard this before. He pointed to the ground near the house. "Come," he said. The old man knelt and brushed away dirt, revealing a small plant. "You see this?" he asked. Eli nodded. "I planted the seed months ago," the old man said. "No one saw it. No one cared." He touched the soil gently. "If I dug it up every day to show people, it would have died." Eli stayed quiet. "Most people kill their dreams like that," the old man continued. "They keep checking, talking, explaining. A seed doesn't grow from attention," he said softly. "It grows from being left alone long enough." Those words stayed with Eli. That night, Eli thought about it. He realized something painful. Every time he talked about his goals, his brain felt rewarded. The praise felt like progress, even when nothing was done. His mind couldn't tell the difference between being admired and being accomplished, so when it came time to work in silence, there was no energy left. Discipline, he realized, was never loud. It didn't feel exciting, it felt dull, and his brain hated dull. That's why the middle always felt heavy. No applause, no feedback, just effort. Most people quit there. Not because they can't do it, but because no one is watching. Eli decided not to announce his next move. No posts, no conversations, no promises, just small actions. He worked when it was boring. When progress felt invisible, when doubt whispered, some days he wanted to tell someone, to feel seen, but he remembered the seed, so he stayed quiet. Weeks passed, nothing dramatic happened. But something inside him changed. He trusted himself a little more each day. Slowly, things shifted, not overnight, not loudly. Small wins appeared, work got easier, focus lasted longer. People noticed without being told, and for the first time, Eli felt proud without needing approval. The work itself became enough. Now let me ask you something. How many seeds have you dug up too early? How many times did you talk instead of build? What would happen if you worked quietly for a year? No announcements, no validation, just consistency. Who could you become if you stopped performing your dreams and started protecting them? There is a version of you that already knows how to finish. That version doesn't need noise. It needs patience. Silence is not hiding. It is preparation. And the most powerful changes in life often happen where no one is looking. After this ends, don't rush. Sit quietly. Think about one small thing you can do today without telling anyone. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who doesn't need hype, just truth. And if you want more stories like this, you already know where the subscribe button is. We'll continue this journey slowly. Let's stay here a little longer. Because the story doesn't end the moment life gets better. It never does. After a few months of quiet work, Eli noticed something unexpected. The world around him didn't suddenly change. People didn't clap, opportunities didn't fall from the sky, but he changed. He walked differently, slower, more grounded. There was less urgency in his movements, less need to explain himself. When someone asked, "So what are you working on these days?" he smiled and said, "Just some things," and that was enough. The weight of silence felt heavy at first, not peaceful, heavy. Because silence removes distractions, it forces you to face your own thoughts. Eli learned that many people talk not because they are confident, but because they are afraid to sit alone with unfinished versions of themselves. Silence asks questions. Are you still working when no one is watching? Do you still care when no one is impressed? Do you still show up when progress feels invisible? These questions don't have loud answers. They are answered quietly, through repetition, through boredom, through showing up on ordinary days. Why most people never experience this phase, most people never reach this part. They live their whole lives in the beginning phase, excitement, announcements, motivation, but never the middle. The middle is where identity is rebuilt, slowly. This is where the brain rewires itself, not through inspiration but through evidence. Each small action tells the mind, "I am someone who follows through," and slowly the mind believes it. Confidence doesn't come from affirmations, it comes from receipts. The lonely growth season, Eli noticed he felt lonelier, not because people left, but because he stopped seeking noise. He no longer needed constant stimulation. He wasn't chasing the next idea. He was staying with one, and staying felt uncomfortable. Growth often does. Because growth asks you to let go of the version of yourself that enjoyed attention more than progress. That version doesn't die easily. It whispers, "Just tell someone, just post a little, just get some recognition," but Eli learned to let that voice pass. The subtle shift others notice months later. Someone said to him casually, "You seem different." They didn't know why, they couldn't explain it, but they felt it. People always feel internal change before they understand it. Eli wasn't louder, he wasn't more confident in words, he was steadier, and steadiness is rare. Another visit to the old man, Eli visited his uncle again. They sat in the same place. The old man looked at him and smiled. "You stopped digging," he said. Eli nodded. "I stopped checking," he replied. The old man laughed softly. "That's when roots grow. A deeper truth about discipline is not force, it is agreement. An agreement between who you are now and who you are becoming. Most people break that agreement daily and wonder why they don't trust themselves. Trust is not built in big promises. It's built in small, kept ones. Eli stopped making promises he couldn't keep, and slowly he became someone who could keep bigger ones. Speaking to you again, let me ask you again, gently. What are you working on that no one knows about? And if the answer is nothing, ask yourself why. Is it fear of failing quietly, fear of being unseen? Fear that without applause, the effort won't feel worth it. What if the effort itself is the reward? What if peace comes from alignment, not recognition? The life that forms quietly. Eli didn't become famous. He didn't become rich overnight, but his life became solid. His days had weight. His choices had direction. And when setbacks came, he didn't collapse, because his confidence was not borrowed from others. It was earned. Final reflection: the loud world will always reward beginnings. But life rewards continuation. The world claps for potential, but fulfillment comes from proof, and proof is built in silence. If you're in that quiet phase right now, where no one sees you, where progress feels slow, stay. Don't dig up the seed, let the roots grow. We'll continue walking this path together, one quiet step at a time. Let's slow it down even more, because what happens next is the part most stories never tell. Time passed, not in big jumps. Not in highlights, just ordinary days stacked on top of each other. Eli woke up, worked, rested, repeated. Some mornings felt empty, not sad, just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you question whether anything is happening at all. And this is where many people panic. They mistake calm for stagnation. They assume that if life doesn't feel intense, they must be doing something wrong. Eli almost believed that too. The temptation to abandon silence. One evening, after a long day, Eli sat with his phone in his hand. He had made real progress by then, not visible to the world, but real. He felt the urge to share. Not to brag, just to feel acknowledged. His finger hovered over the screen. He imagined the comments, the encouragement, the temporary lift. And then he remembered something his uncle once said: attention is a currency. Spend it too early and you'll be broke when it matters. Eli put the phone down, not because sharing was wrong, but because this moment was fragile. Some things grow best when protected. The psychology of quiet confidence. Something subtle was happening in Eli's mind. Before, motivation felt like a spark. Bright, short-lived. Now it felt like weight, not heavy in a bad way, heavy like something solid. His brain had stopped waiting for excitement. It had learned rhythm, and rhythm doesn't rush. This is what most people misunderstand about discipline. It's not about forcing yourself. It's about removing negotiation. Eli no longer asked himself, "Do I feel like it today?" He asked, "Is this part of who I am now?" And that question changed everything. Why silence feels uncomfortable at first. Silence exposes identity gaps. When you stop talking about your goals, you can no longer pretend you're making progress. You either are or you are. That truth can feel sharp. That's why people distract themselves. That's why they stay busy but unfulfilled. Eli learned to sit with that discomfort. He learned that boredom wasn't an enemy. It was a gatekeeper. On the other side of boredom was mastery. A moment of doubt returns one day, unexpectedly. Doubt came back, not loud, just persistent. Is this really worth it? Is anyone ever going to notice? What if this doesn't lead anywhere? Eli didn't fight the thoughts, he let them pass. Because he had learned something important. Doubt doesn't mean stop. It means you're deep enough that turning back feels expensive, and that's a good sign. The world begins to respond differently without trying. Eli noticed changes. People listened when he spoke, not because he talked more, but because he talked less. His words carried weight. He didn't rush to explain himself. He didn't overpromise. And somehow that made others trust him. Opportunities came quietly, not dramatic, just natural. Because consistency attracts attention without asking for it. Another lesson from the seed. One afternoon, Eli walked past his uncle's garden. The plant was taller now, stronger. The old man didn't stand beside it, didn't point to it. He let it speak for itself. That image stayed with Eli. Some things don't need introductions. Speaking softly to you again, if you're listening to this while feeling invisible, while wondering if your quiet effort matters, let me tell you something gently. The most dangerous time is not when you fail, it's when you almost succeed and get impatient. That's when people sabotage themselves. They rush the reveal, they chase validation. And they interrupt the process that was finally working. If you've been consistent lately, protect that. You don't owe anyone an explanation. The inner shift no one talks about. Eli realized he no longer fantasized about the future as much. Not because he lacked dreams, but because he was too busy living aligned days. Dreams stopped being escapes, they became directions. This is when peace enters, not excitement, peace. The quiet confidence that says, I'm becoming someone I respect, and that feeling doesn't need witnesses. Staying in the unfinished space, the story doesn't end here. Because becoming is not a finish line, it's a way of moving through life. Eli is still working, still refining, still silent, and maybe so are you, so stay here, in this quiet space. Where roots grow deep, where identity is built without applause. We're not done yet, stay with me a little longer. This part is slow, almost still, but it matters. There is a moment in every quiet transformation when nothing feels wrong anymore, but nothing feels finished either. Eli entered that season. The days were no longer heavy, but they weren't exciting. They were steady, and for the first time in his life, that steadiness scared him, because chaos had always felt familiar, starting over, reinventing. Promising himself this time will be different, steadiness removed drama, and without drama, there was nowhere to hide. When you can't blame circumstances anymore, Eli noticed something uncomfortable. He could no longer blame motivation, or timing, or other people. The mirror had become quiet but honest. If progress slowed, it was his responsibility. If momentum stayed, it was because of his choices. This level of ownership feels heavy at first, because excuses used to be comforting. They softened disappointment, but they also delayed growth. Eli realized that maturity isn't confidence, it's accountability without self-hate. The subtle grief of letting old selves go. There were nights when Eli missed his old self, the dreamer, the talker, the version of him that felt full of potential. That version felt lighter, but also unfinished. Letting go of that identity felt like a small grief, because potential feels safe, effort demands proof, and proof requires time. Eli learned that becoming disciplined means mourning the person who loved excitement more than consistency. That grief doesn't get talked about, but it's real. Why silence feels like loneliness. Silence can feel lonely when you're used to being validated, not because people disappear, but because you stop feeding on reaction. Eli noticed fewer conversations about plans, fewer late-night, one-day talks, but something replaced them: clarity. His mind felt cleaner, less crowded, he slept better. Not because life was perfect, but because his days no longer argued with each other. The inner voice changes, something else shifted. The voice inside his head changed tone. It stopped asking, will this work? It started asking, is this honest? Honest effort, honest pace, honest expectations. That voice wasn't loud, it didn't push, it guided. And Eli learned to trust it because it had been shaped by action, not hope. Time reveals what noise never could. Months passed, the kind of months you don't remember individually. But together they built something solid. Eli looked back one day and realized he had crossed a distance without noticing the steps. This is how real change happens, quietly, gradually. Without announcement. If you blink, you miss it. If you rush, you interrupt it. A final lesson from the old man on one of their last visits that year. Eli and his uncle sat in silence again. No advice, no metaphors, just presence. As Eli stood to leave, the old man said one last thing. People think silence is empty, he said, but silence is full of answers. Eli nodded. He finally understood. Speaking to you, slowly. If you're listening to this while feeling behind in life, if you feel like everyone else is moving faster, let me tell you something quietly. Speed impresses people, direction saves lives. You don't need to catch up. You need to commit. Commit to fewer things. Commit longer. Commit privately. Let your effort be boring. Let your growth be invisible. You are not late. You are early in a process that doesn't reward noise. What to do after this ends when this audio finishes, don't rush to the next thing. Sit for a minute, ask yourself one honest question. What is one thing I can work on consistently without telling anyone? Not a big thing, a real thing. Then protect it, not with motivation. With silence, the truth few people accept the life you want will not arrive loudly. It will arrive disguised as routine, as repetition, as days that look ordinary. And one day, without warning, you'll realize you are no longer waiting to become someone. You already are. A gentle invitation. If this story stayed with you, let it stay quietly. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to defend it. Just live it. And if you want to walk more of this road together, you know where to find me. No rush. We're building something slowly.